My name is Myles McDougall, and I'm the MLA for Calgary Fish-Creek.
Myles, what's your particular involvement and interest in the Greenline?
Well, first of all, I am the member of the Legislative Assembly for Calgary Fish-Creek here in Calgary, and so this is an important project for Calgary. It's a big cost item that's going to cost both Calgary taxpayers and Alberta taxpayers a significant amount of money, investment. But also, I was appointed by the Premier to be one of the three provincial representatives on the Greenline Committee, so I have been following this project fairly close over the last several months.
So Myles, since your interview with Brooklyn on January 17th, City Council approved a proposal by the province for a Greenline project. And I'm wondering if I could ask you a few questions and you could provide some clarity on that.
Sure, happy to do so.
Thank you. What values guided the government's approach to the Greenline proposal?
Well, fundamentally, it's about value for money, for taxpayers' money. What we're concerned about is that the project in cost had increased significantly, while the scope of the project had declined dramatically from where it was originally proposed. So we went from a situation where we had a proposal for 46 kilometers of LRT line with 29 stations to the latest city proposal in July of 2024 of only 7 stations and a much shorter line that only extended from downtown to Linwood, Milliken. And so we were concerned that the amount of capital expenditure per number of expected passengers for such a short line and where that line was located not only calls into question the amount of capital spent for that project, but even the operating costs for maintaining such a line with dramatically reduced number of passengers. The other element to this is that we were aware that the business plan for this proposal had to be approved by the federal government, which is providing 1/3 of the total $1.5 billion cost. That is to say, their share was going to be $1.5 billion, and what was originally going to be a $4.5 billion project. And so, in order to get that funding, you needed to make sure that the business plan made sense.
So were you protecting Alberta taxpayers, or was it also Calgary taxpayers that were being protected by the government's actions?
Well, I think our primary focus is Albertan and Calgarian taxpayers, both those who pay provincial taxes and also those who pay city taxes. But the other element is that unless the business plan made sense, the federal government's portion of it we wouldn't expect that. And so that would make the whole project uneconomic for sure.
How did the government come up with their latest proposal?
Well, we hired a consulting firm that had experience in passenger rail projects, and they spent a few months evaluating different options. They were told, we have a $6.2 billion figure, which is the latest city's estimate for their previous project. What can we do more? How much more can we do within this $6.2 billion envelope? Part of this cost structure was of the city's previous proposal was the fact that they were going to be tunneling. So we said, if we do not tunnel underground down in the downtown area and instead go on surface, can the savings from going on surface allow us to extend the line to incorporate more potential passengers and more value? And so that was their mandate, to look within the options within that framework. And they came back with a proposal that we then submitted to the City Council for their consideration.
How does the government's proposal that was ultimately approved on January 28th of 2025 improve upon the previous proposal that the city had made in the summer of 2024?
Well, what it does is that taking the same dollar budget, $6.2 billion, we extend the line from 7 stations to 13 stations. It goes instead from Eau Claire to Milliken, Linwood to 7th Avenue to Shepherd. And so by extending that line that much further, we are able to provide that type of service to many more potential passengers, many more communities.
How many more passengers are estimated?
Well, we think the increase in passengers, and of course these are all estimates based on that, but it's at least a 40% increase in the number of expected passengers. So we're talking about 45,000 potential passengers daily, as opposed to something that more than 40% less than that.
What's the implication of that to the Calgary taxpayer?
Well, one element is that, of course, more passengers for the amount of dollars spent in capital expenditures, but there's also an implication for the net operating costs for the project. Most LRT lines are subsidized. They operate at a loss, but the project is much more viable with the increased revenues that we can expect from an increased number of passengers to make it a little bit more feasible for the Canadian Calgary taxpayers.
There's been criticism that the provincial plan that was ultimately approved doesn't extend north to 16th Avenue. Could you please comment on that?
Well, I think it's very important to point out that, different than what has been talked about and out there and by some individuals, the decision not to extend north to 16th Avenue was not the city. The province had nothing to do with that. That decision had been previously made by Calgary City Council, and as they attempted to bring the cost structures down to something that was manageable for the city. So the proposal in July 2024 only extended as north to as far as Eau Claire, because the cost to go over the river and up to 16th Avenue made it could not be accomplished with the money that the city could afford to fund. So that was their decision, and so the line initially will only extend from downtown to the south. Perhaps someday we could extend it to the north, but that's something for the future and depending on available capital. It's my hope, in the meantime, I think it's fair to the residents in northern part of Calgary to wonder about what's the future for them in terms of public transportation. And I think we have to, and the city council should be looking at other options, and whether it's a BRT or something else that's for city council to determine.
So are there any other benefits in this new project that are included over and above the one that was in the proposal from the last city council?
Well, first of all, I think we have a business plan now that has a better chance of being accepted by the federal government, which again is going to be contributing $1.5 billion to the project if they approve the business plan. So we have a more viable business plan. The plan includes this new concept of a grand central station that would be located next to the new events center that is now under construction. And so that is an exciting new element to the city. There are plans for additional passenger rail projects that this new grand central station concept, I think, provides a lot of options and potentially a good benefit to all Calgarians. It establishes a base from which other extensions can be considered, whether you're going further south to Seton or eventually going north of the Bow River. These are things that can be built upon the current plan as it exists.